Hello and welcome to our program. On our show today, a very special guest, someone who has been described by the international media as being constructively contrarian, someone who has helped shape the legal landscape of India. His own vision and hope for how he sees the world going into legal spaces, into how we can move into preventive conflict resolution, has helped him hone his own vision for the country and international law. Someone who believes that the law should not be an impediment, but an enabler. Please welcome well-known legal expert Nishith Desai.
Hello.
Nishith, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
You know, they say, and especially in Indian families, कोई बच्चा जो बहुत ज़्यादा बोलता है और हर एक चीज़ में बहस करता है और हर एक चीज़ की उसकी ओपिनियन होती है, तो बोलते हैं बड़ा होके ना तुमको वकील बनना है. आपने वकील बनने की कैसे सोची? How do you think that you wanted to be a lawyer?
Oh, I think it came in some ways as a part of inheritance, but I did not inherit my law firm. My grandfather was a lawyer in a small town in Gujarat.
Okay.
A place called Dohad, or Dahod it is called. And so there was some genetic inspiration, if I may put it in that fashion. But I came to Mumbai in '62, stayed with my uncle and studied, ran a medical store. They had a medical store.
Okay.
So I had an opportunity to learn pharma and other kind of subjects and selling medicine across the counter. Studied my law, I did my LLM, I did research for 3 years in international tax and subjects like that. And somehow or the other, when I specialized these subjects way back in 1977 and 80, there was no takeoff for my work because India was throwing out foreign companies. 1977 was the year when Coca-Cola was thrown out, IBM was thrown out, Foreign Exchange Regulation Act was, you know, very draconianly enforced at that point of time, and we saw all that. It was very interesting phase though. Same year, you see, we had emergency coming in, and those kind of our fundamental rights that were impacted at that point of time.
Right.
So that particular period was very interesting for me, and I specialized subjects of globalization way back then. But I was dressed up to go nowhere. And so what does a lawyer do if he has no practice, right? Much to say so. He starts writing articles. He starts writing books. He starts lecturing because there is nothing else to do maybe in a lighter vein. So what happened was that I started writing for international journals. And from that, in 1981, a company called Bechtel, when they came to India and they were bidding for some projects and stuff like that, they were looking for somebody who understood international construction contract and international taxation of international construction contracts. Both are complicated subjects.
And niche areas.
A very, very niche area.
Right.
And they went around, they couldn't find anybody who had that understanding. So somehow or the other, they brought a piece of paper, my article. And they thought I must be senior lawyer with a lot of gray hair like today I have. And they sought me out. And that was the beginning of my work on international side. It is the largest construction company in the world, private construction company in the world.
Right.
But I learned a lot. And that's how my journey began actually. So, sometimes you don't know it. It was almost, I did my master's in international business law, comparative law studies.
Okay.
So I had to compare different corporate laws in different countries and tax laws in different countries and other kind of laws.
I think somewhere also to understand, and the deeper question here is, Nishith, that you started with a certain premise, but what has happened is over the years today you have international fame. You're one of the top Indian companies. You started it in your own manner and you succeeded. As you said, I did not get a legacy of a company from my parents. You started it. But the differences with which you started in terms of the research focus, in terms of OB being a critical area of love and interest, you have happened to keep the complete vision and the value going strong in your company. Wasn't that difficult, or did that flow from the top?
Well, one way to say is that nothing that is easy. Second thing is that something that is difficult, but if you enjoy doing it, it becomes easy. So it is for you to convert difficult into a joyful kind of a work. So as I was mentioning that after Bechtel, most of my practice began to grow in the US, and a company like Clorox company, DuPont, and Levi Strauss, and it was all. And then later on in 1985, Wall Street bankers became my clients, and it was very interesting. I never wanted to set up a law firm because I'm a researcher, I am a writer, I enjoy doing those kind of things. And but head of legal at Bear Stearns was one of the top 5 investment banking company, which went down under during the meltdown in late 2000, 8 and 9, whatever Lehman time. And the head of legal and the managing director of Bear Stearns, both of them suggested me, Nishith, why don't you set up a law firm? I said, why should I set up one more law firm? I'm free bird, I have no other hassle, no hire, fire, absolutely. And they told me a couple of times, and then I thought, okay, let me think how these law firms become big in the world and what are they doing and how they are organized. So I started studying law firms, their histories and their management systems, and then I studied all the accounting firms I know in and out, the Big Four included, and then consulting firms like McKinsey and Bain Consulting and all those kind of. So when I studied all that, and I figured out 2 things. Number one, that our law firm model globally has become such that if it's all time based, if I spend more time doing a work, and I put more people on the job, I get more reward. But if I do the same work in less time, then I'm not easily rewarded. So model is very skewed. So I thought there is a change we can do. That if I do high quality work in a shortest possible time, that is what should be rewarding, not I keep on filling up what is called time slips in many organizations. You must be hearing. They keep on recording time.
Changing the rules.
Changing the rules of the game. So I started on that premise. And I said, if you want to add value, you do not wait for client to come to you and tell you problem. You visualize these problems ahead of time, do your research at much ahead of time. So when actual problem comes, we resolve them. Most of the time, we learn at the cost of client. Client comes, then we start opening the book and then start working on that. So I think the whole model I thought I should change, and that was my main desire, to give to the world a new what is called business model. I don't like to call my profession business, to be honest. So new professional firm model I want to give to the world. And last year we won the most innovative law firm award from Financial Times of London for creating this new model and what is called constructively contrarian model.
To see the organization not as a business but as a living, breathing creature, an organization of people which has an identity of its own, that has really helped you understand, and I think somewhere you did a lot of research. But for how we see corporates across the world, what are some lessons organizations need to learn, organizations of people, to say, I cannot treat my work like this, but I need to treat it with people?
As I told you, I studied over 100 organizations before setting up this law firm,
Right.
And in the process, I became an ardent student of organizational behavior. One of the interesting lessons I learned, there are 3 ways to compete. One, on price. You can have very cheap product and you compete. You can become more and more expensive, and more people want to buy because it is more expensive, like Louis Vuitton or some of the top brands you see in the world. More expensive, you want to take more. So there is a pricing strategy is one part of the game. So second, innovation of products or services. So innovation is the other. So differentiated product or service is other way to compete in the marketplace, right? Sometimes you may not have either of the 2 advantages. You may not have a great pricing strategy. You may not have a great product or innovation for whatever reason, right? But if your organizational behavior is of a type which market would like, that itself becomes a competitive factor. And number 2, that even if you are innovative, even if your pricing strategy, but your behavior of organization is not right, you will not survive. So OB is the most important competitive factor. The culture of an organization, for example, is not easily replicable. You can take people away, but not the entire culture.
That's unique.
It's unique.
Okay.
And look at how OB has helped, just to give an example, let's take Infosys.
Okay.
Narayan Murthy went out to the world. He never possibly, I never heard him saying, my software is the best in the world, or I have done. Most of the time I heard him selling ethics, philosophy, good behavior, good conduct. We took that company public on NASDAQ ADR, and I had an opportunity to study the company from inside out. And what I was looking at was that what are they really selling? They're selling the organizational behavior. It became darling of NASDAQ because the story is NASDAQ-like. They said this is a company, this is a fine company. Look at Tata's. Tata's acquired Jaguar. Number of people tried to acquire Jaguar and they couldn't succeed. But when Tata's wanted to acquire Jaguar, what happened? I think the people were very responsive because they thought this here is a company, even though from a former colony. Okay, so Britishers wanted to be, working in an Indian-owned company.
Right.
Why? Because they thought Tata is a humane company. Okay, look at what Tatas have done to Jaguar. It changed the behavior of the people. They became enthusiastic, they became creative, they are not the best paymaster perhaps, or maybe, I don't know, but they are not necessarily attracting talent on that basis.
So different energy has come in.
The British worker loved, and now today it is one of the most profitable. Other people in the world could not revive Jaguar, Tata's did it.
Right.
Heads off. So OB, if you understand nuances of OB, you can have very strong competitive advantage. They could bid for it and they could win the bid. Right. Because it was human.
Right. So that means the motive of making profit and ethics, they're not at loggerheads or they're not contraindicated.
Not at all. Not at all. In fact, I think profit with purpose is something we really need to understand. And today we talk about, succession plans. Okay. Big companies. All the time I hear in the board meeting, succession plan, succession plan, succession plan. Okay. It is very good. I'm not suggesting that it's wrong. But I think the most important succession plan is a value system. There is a very nice book in which 35 case studies of Japanese companies are described. These companies lasted for close to 300 to 1,000 years. Okay? And one single thing that comes out of all this is your value system. If you have a value system in your family, in your business, you will sustain for a long period of time. The moment value system goes down the drain, you go down the drain as well. So it's very important that organizational behavior is factored in as a competitive advantage, a competitive factor when you do your strength and weaknesses and build on that. That would be very, very helpful.
Right. We're going to go in for a short break.
Sure.
When we come back, Nishith, we'll want to learn from you. One is, how do we build leadership in organizations? That's the crisis which people are working with throughout. And of course, there are many, many frontiers of law, other than the normal regular procedures that we know, which you're opening up and most of us are not aware, but you're really working at the cutting edge of the frontiers. We'll learn about that and a lot more. But right now, we take a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. We're in conversation with well-known legal expert and a visionary in his own right, Nishith Desai. Nishith, when we talk of organizations as living creatures, OP is your love and passion, and you're also in action in your own organization. This crisis of second line of leadership with the same value system, how does one inspire that in organizations?
What is leadership? As you grow from a young child or young associate organization, this is the way I look at. At the base, you become techno, you do more technical work and stuff. As you move forward, you learn administrative things. So you become administrator. Administrator is a person who only administers the policy of the organization. So he doesn't question, oh, this policy is right or wrong or change, etc. His job is to administer. Number 3, from administrator he moves on to managerial. His job is to see what should be the policy, and he has to tell, oh, you do this, you do this. He gets work done by others by telling them what to do. Okay. But from manager, one becomes leader, and that is inspirational. Leadership, in my view, is all about inspiration. I do not have to tell you, you do this, you do this, you do this. You look at me, my behavior, and you automatically follow. I don't have to manage people. So there is no white and black line. People would be administrator, they would also be manager in some ways, they will be leadership. But I think ultimate leadership is about inspiration, in my view. So I think everything flows from there to on the organization has a huge impact on the leadership. And leadership, in my view, it is just not I would say born leaders, but in many ways they can also be motivated to become leaders.
So for somebody who's at the top of the pyramid in an organization, what are some touch points for you to say, I need to encourage creativity, risk taking, failure in young people, for them to be able to push their boundaries? Because as you said, it's not horizontal, not vertical, it's sliced like this. We have a bit of an administrator, we have leadership, we have everything within us. How do organizations at the top, the leadership, nurture these little things?
I have been actually doing, I could be wrong or I don't know, but that's my way of doing thing, is first of all to empower people and let them take risks and let them fail. That is the first thing. Right from the early stage we have to, you always manage that risk factor into your organizational profitability or cash flows. But if you do not allow people to fail, you will never succeed. In India, unfortunate part is that, if you fail, it's shameful. In the US, to fail is not shameful, only fail dishonestly is shameful. And that's the correct way to look at it. So if somebody experiments something, loses money, fine.
Coming to the new frontiers of law, there is so much in law that is happening and we don't know about, and you're actually, whether it's virtual currency, whether it's looking at the net as enabling democracy, you have very, very enriching views on them. Beginning with this virtual currency bit, I personally have very little understanding. Please help me learn.
Well, virtual currency, what I think what you mean is bitcoins, right?
Right.
And Bitcoin is very interesting cryptocurrency, as they call it. Bitcoin is a new technology in that sense. And in fact, that is why even Reserve Bank of India is not prohibited. They are allowing technology to evolve. Most of the countries, nobody has prohibited, except few countries in the world, barring them, whether you go to US or Canada or other, adaptation is very high. So there are, whether it will succeed or fail, one doesn't know. At one point of time, one Bitcoin became equal to $1,200. Today it is $200. So Bitcoin is more like a software. And the theory, fundamental theory, is that if you have a finite quantity of a particular item, your price discovery is that much better. Now bitcoins, maximum bitcoins you can mine are 21 million bitcoins in the world.
That's a limit which is set.
Limit, which is the whole system is designed that, right? Today about 12 or 13 million have been mined. Now it is like this. If I tell you there is only one glass of this kind in the world, no other glass exists, and then we are discussing price, because it is only one glass, Mona Lisa, let's say.
Value increases.
Correct? If you have two Mona Lisa, different. Three, but you take a judgment. If it is commodity, it's right.
Right.
So when you know that quantity is finite, you can decide the value, because value is ultimately a matter of opinion.
True.
Price is a function of demand and supply. So, what happens is that when you have finite quantity, you are able to decide the price much more effectively. That is why, for example, gold, everybody knows it's less than silver in the world. So, gold is more precious than silver. Silver and iron, okay, like that. So, the valuation goes because the quantities are less or more. But in those cases, you do not know exactly how much gold exists in the world,
right,
including below the earth, right?
Right.
So, what happens is that there is still speculation, but here you know exactly that this is the quantity I want to pay so much price, this is how it is. So, market can discover pricing much better.
So, this monitored speculation.
In
some kind of checks and balances.
It's an expectation of how it will grow in the future. That everything is speculation in some way. Whenever you think of future, it's speculation.
Right.
In
True.
some ways, right?
Very true.
So, but it allows you to discover the price. It is also very secured in many ways. Number 3, that it is a traceable currency at the end of the day. Okay. So, you can, transactions can be traced. And number 4, that the cost of transaction is nearly 0. Today, if a poor man in Mumbai wants to send 100 rupees to Bihar, how much bank would charge? Will charge you 25 rupees.
Yeah.
It's too expensive to send. So, for a small person, this is a great tool. He can send 5 rupees also.
Okay.
Literally no cost.
So, for larger acceptability, and how does that
therefore
happen?
This technology has a power to help the small and medium sized people to transfer money across the world and in a secured fashion.
Okay.
And stuff like that.
All right.
Yeah. There have been some unfortunate instances like Silk Route and some other companies try to peddle drug or stuff like that. Now,
okay,
it's like any other currency. You have currency notes. Currency notes, once they are transacted, people transfer in Delhi and other places. Right. Once monies are handed over and people go home, it's not traceable unless you hold somebody,
right,
with physical possession. But previous thing you can't.
So, it's the process.
Whereas this currency is little more traceable because it is electronic.
Right. So, there is a process and there is the currency,
right,
but the commodity can't always be controlled because that depends on the people who are using it.
Yeah, that obviously the more people use, more
right,
its pricing becomes. So, now the interesting part about this Bitcoin is that it brings out a lot of new legal issues and tax issues.
Okay.
Whether it is currency or is it not a currency?
It's a commodity.
Or is it money or not? Is it a commodity?
Right.
What will be the taxation? All those issues are legal or tax issues.
Under which law does it fall? What is the purview
exactly,
and all?
And
right,
how do you work around that?
So, where is India placed in that?
At the moment, there are no specific regulations on Bitcoins.
Okay.
And my understanding is that industry itself is going to create its own self-regulations, particularly KYC norms and other information that will be, so who transfers, where it goes, all that. Industry is developing its own norms. Today already they are adopting those norms, fortunately.
Okay.
It's the best thing that industry develop its own norms rather than government coming and enforcing some or pushing some regulations.
Absolutely.
So that's a good thing, and particularly India, I am very, very happy. Mr. Rajan, I think I must say hats off to him. He's very pragmatic, and even apart from other great thing he's doing,
right,
but I think this is something which we must, we are allowing the technology to flower.
Right.
And as time goes by, some regulations might be necessary, they will come up, but if people regulate themselves, there will be minimum need for doing that.
Right. And what you're really putting very beautifully here is that it looks very niche and high end, but the applicability is mass and hugely useful for a country like India,
right,
which is struggling with equity and getting the last man into the larger system.
Right. And that's how, as I mentioned, one way in which I built firm, first of all, was based on organizational behavior, and second way was to put research, academics and thought leadership in the firm DNA.
Okay.
So entire philosophy of the firm, we spent close to 40% of our time, firm's time, on research academics and stuff like that. And the way in which we look at is that every new technology, every new financial instrument, every new business model, every new social or political development bring along with it a new legal or tax problem. So what we typically do, follow the process of anticipate, prepare and deliver. So we anticipate what's going to happen over a period of next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. We take about 10, 15 years shot and see, oh, these 100 technologies are going to come. Okay. What will be new legal or tax problems that will come? Look at e-commerce. How many legal problems? How many tax problems? Wi-Fi, WiMAX, quantum computing, fuel cells, nanotechnology, medical devices. Medical devices, is there a drug? Is a device. Okay. So accordingly regulations will apply. So you have to understand that each technology has its own nuances. So we have to understand. So we try to shortlist about say 100 trends, of which we shortlist further 10 trends and do intensive research for the time to come.
Okay.
And even though they may happen possibly after 5-10 years, but we are in the state of preparedness today. And we do a lot of intensive research, both secondary and primary. So after doing secondary research or studies, our team goes out in the world, would meet with the industry players, academicians, consultants, other people around, understand the industry and understand the problems that might come up, and then visualize what new legal or tax problems would come. So when actual technology comes in, then we are somewhat 60-80% ready, and that's the way we built our core competencies, what we call super specialities.
Taxation regime in India has its own challenges, and yet there are huge administrative issues related to how are we going to implement the policies. So do you see a gap between how a tax is envisaged and how it's administered, and what is the role? So can policy lead administration, or what happens in these two?
Well, my take on that is that a little unfortunate what has been happening in India is constantly we have tax controversies. The fundamental reason is that we bring laws in a hurry, draft them in a hurry, and try to administer them in a hurry without proper training of the people and stuff like that. Now look at when we bring any new law, there is no philosophical discussion that happens. Finance minister announces budget and immediately finance bill is presented. My recommendation would be, do not do that, because you are bringing legislation in a hurry, you have not applied your mind. So once there are drafting errors, so many drafting errors go on. Now when drafting error happens, neither the citizen nor the tax department can understand them fully in a clear fashion. Okay. And therefore tax department will take one view, citizen will understand it differently. So what they say and what people hear. So drafting, we should really pay good attention. And because of bad drafting, we face all this problem. And once other problem that is in India is too much of discretion is given. Now what is corruption? Corruption happens because of discretion. And if I may define it, I may put it this way: discretion minus accountability and consequence is equal corruption.
True.
Okay. That's a simple way to look at it. And therefore, you have got these problems. So discretion is one thing that we need to. Other point I would say is that when we bring new laws, we do not appoint law commission. Even direct taxes code was proposed, no law commission was. Companies Act, which I think has created huge problems for ease of doing business. It is becoming more difficult, and every new morning you got new circular coming out. I think we need to scrap this law and rewrite. I don't think this law will last very well in next 10 years. It will become huge pile of papers, disjointed papers, so many disconnect. I would not go into the details today.
Right.
But it started very well, but we did not appoint law commission. We did not draft it very carefully. Okay. And then we have a lot of problems coming out of the new law. What we should have ideally done is that, okay, England has New Companies Act, Delaware has a new corporate law. Singapore has, and Cayman Islands and some of those countries. Now those corporate laws are well written. Not only well written, but there is a huge body of judicial precedents. Now we have written law in our own way. So if you would have adopted some of those best practices and improved on them for India, limited improvement, we would have got finer piece of legislation.
True.
But today it is so different from any other country in the world that the judgments overseas cannot even be applied in a persuasive fashion today.
Right.
So we will have to create new jurisprudence, and there will be a lot of confusion, and it has become very difficult to, people do not realize, but company law has a lot of issues within that. It started off extremely well with Mr. J.J. Irani, you bring business perspective and all that, but mistake was that it was not drafted properly, and law commission should have been ideally involved. I think that is something we should not forget. We bring laws in too much
and
of a hurry.
also globally, Nishith, how the world sees India, it sees it as a market, huge potential, whatever. But I think somewhere when signals like this are sent out, it's very touchy. It's a very sensitive place for even investment to come in. So what message are we giving globally when we're trying to set our own house in order?
Absolutely. I think what has happened, our Prime Minister has done a great job going around the world. I think a lot of interest in India today, no doubt about it. But if you want to form a company, it takes 1 month, 2 months. Other countries in 4 hours you do it. Now the starting point for a small entrepreneur, how to start a company, if it's a big issue, he can't give stock option to consultants or somebody who is mentoring. Only whole-time employee. Now today they can't afford to hire employees. They need advice of some mentors or other people.
I know.
Okay, I'm not suggesting that then you do it or not, but company should have, it is a shareholder's decision whether to give option or no option. You have provided so many things in the Companies Act which makes it completely dysfunctional. Look at CSR. Okay, CSR 2% has profit has to be given. Mandated.
Yes.
What we have done originally, this what is the meaning of CSR was in one of the schedules, okay, which included social business projects is one of the item.
Okay.
Now, without going to the parliament, the schedule which is attached to the act was amended and social business project was removed. Okay. Now, as a result, they say anything should be done only through an NGO, not for profit entity. All CSR should be done through NGO kind of thing, or whatever you want to contribute.
Right.
Now, if you are a multinational company in India or otherwise, then you to contribute to NGO, wireless FCRA approvals do not come for months together. How do you implement this? And people do not realize that social business is the biggest and most powerful tool you can give to the people. It makes people stand on their own. When you give donation, it is giving dole.
Right, absolutely.
Okay, it does not give respect and does not allow him to stand on his own. When you get into social business, then you empower a person to create job for himself and create job for many other people around him.
Absolutely. And that's the sustainability of it.
That's sustainability of it, and that's why it has become so popular.
Right.
So if you create laws like this, it's a new Companies Act. It should have been far superior than what we had in past. Now it is today, every day we are struggling for clarification. Last point I would like to make is that all our civil laws, now we are converting them into criminal laws, and with disproportionate penalties or punishment. Whether it's income tax, whether it is Companies Act, everywhere there is punishment and there is rigorous imprisonment, there is this fine, that fine. Yeah, I understand where you need to provide, you need to take a hard look at it and do whatever you want to do. I would absolutely no objection.
But you can't grow with fear, no?
But everything cannot be that disproportionate. You make life miserable. And your laws are not written properly. So constantly people trip on compliance, and they comply, and then they have problems.
How we're seeing CSR today, organizations are saying it's become mandated to ensure that CSR and the benefits of CSR, because communities need to benefit from those who are in them. How can CSR actually be made a beautiful tool in the country and reach the people who need it the most?
I think first thing is creating awareness itself, okay, and the peer pressure, okay. You know, there was a time when nobody was making any philanthropy. They built some temple or some church or something like that. Today, I think at a higher level, already there exists a desire to give. Words like give back are coming into vogue in India, okay. So, I think as we move forward, society matures and they will do it, but we have to educate them, we have to talk to them, and when there are finer organizations who understand, they will definitely do it. And then at the same time, responsibility is responsibility, right. So, ultimately it is company's heart that will, otherwise anything you make, they can beat. And but we can foster that without any doubt, and especially if you encourage social businesses in India, you know, that will really be loved by companies. Why? Because it is not just dole out. For example, you create microfinance institution.
Right.
Okay, I am not suggesting for a moment the other side, but basically let us say microfinance. People not only help people, but valuations went up. So, it also help companies to see that the company derives value out of it, or whosoever works. Then
so it's a win-win.
At times there will be some instances a greed creeps in and stuff like that, but today 99% of the microfinance institution, you see that they have performed their job very well. India is a hub for that now. There are instances, there will always be one or two, but you can't paint everybody black.
True.
You know, for that reason. So, I believe India could be a laboratory for social business projects, because the scalability is high. Immediately you got thousands and hundreds and thousands, millions of people to work with, and the cost of failure is low. It's not like Silicon Valley that you hire somebody and you pay $100,000 salary, right? So, here you can do it at 1/10 the cost, even much lesser than that. And so, you know, India can become laboratory for social businesses if Silicon Valley is a lab for technology entrepreneurship. So, these are two things if we can understand well, I think we can do a lot, and it will spread like a wildfire. You can do so much. I have seen some examples and I have helped some organizations as well, the micro housing and many other new technologies that are coming up, including in medical devices. These are all interesting social businesses, you know.
True.
Otherwise, traditional charity organization would find it very hard to survive on you know, donations and stuff like that. You can't go with a begging bowl every year, you know, you have to be self-sufficient.
In India, law is seen as a hugely empowering and an enabling profession. You know, it helps you understand your rights. But here, law as a profession for young people, a lot of young people are coming into this area. And I think there is really no idea as to what does this profession hold for you? What do you really want to do? Because there is so much of diversity in the people, but where are the role models? Where is the guidance? Where is the indication? What is required? And it's a huge resource and a strength for us. How do we channelize good young legal minds to say, understand the law, interpret it, because it's so closely linked to social responsibility?
Just to go back in history, I passed out my law in 1973, and at that point of time, when somebody did not get admission anywhere else, law was the last profession. Okay, at that point nobody wanted to get in, but now law has become one of the preferred professions.
True.
Because some kids saw opportunity to change the world, and some saw opportunity to make a lot of money. Okay, I think there are two classes of people who have come in, because one who wants to change the world, other who just so for instant gratification. So they say, oh, this fellow is making so much of money, this fellow is making so much of money, oh, I should get into that. I think some of those people, you know, could spoil the broth.
Right.
You know, because the whole mindset is money minded. We are treating now law as a business. Actually, it is a profession. And that is a fundamental thing people have forgotten today. You have, for economic sustenance, yes, it is fine. one has to realize you will always have honorable living, not necessarily, you can't compare yourself Ambani's and other people, right? And so I think some balance will need to be there, and if we forget that, then we'll see a lot of casualties like what happened on the Wall Street.
Right.
Our inspiration in law profession today is investment bankers who are and management. MBA is not a profession. Nitin Nehoria in Harvard Business Review, entire issue is devoted to one single question, whether MBA is a profession or not. Conclusion, it is not a profession because there is no binding code of conduct. When we grew up, people like Palkiwala was an idol. We all inspired. I worked with him at times, you know, and we looked at him. We were inspired. Therefore, he was a leader. He became an institution for so many of us. We got freedom, and we, in fact, one of the things we learned was to speak up. Okay. Today, because of the vested business interest, many times we lawyers don't speak up. Okay. It is very common.
Right.
And I think that is where I feel that legal profession is not doing what it needs to be doing today, because many of our people have lost ability to speak up when we need to stand up and speak up.
Right.
I'm not suggesting all. There are extraordinary people, and we still have in the middle of us, you know, I would not name, but hundreds of names who really serve the country.
Yes.
We are whole country runs on writ petition.
True.
Delhi's pollution is addressed by writ petition. It is government's job.
Democracy, very critical to all of us.
Yeah.
I think we like to believe that we have our rights. We very often forget our duties, but we all know that we have rights. We're in a democracy, we can speak. But democracy is also not a reality for many people, not only in India, but across the world, because there's basic denial of opportunity. The net as a means to give a more level playing field, the role that the internet can play in democracy, you have some wonderful views on that to share them.
You touch my heart, I would say, because my vision, if you ask me, is in 20 or 30 years, we should not have parliament. Why do you need parliament, right? And I'm sure most of you will agree. And parliament, if you know, representative parliament came into existence sometime in the year 913 Iceland.
Okay, yes.
The Athenian democracy that happened was in when Socrates and Plato and Aristotle, 500 BC. It took 500 years by the time you had Athenian style direct democracy. Then it took another 800-900 years to have represent, because when groups become larger, they had to represent somebody, and so indirect democracy.
So elections happened and people were voting.
First parliament in the world happened in Iceland.
Right.
Okay, I've been to that place also where it happened. Yeah.
Okay.
Interestingly, my subject of interest. Now, after 1100 years, 900 to 2000, do we not need to find a new business model? Who are parliamentarians? They say we are representatives of the people. That means they are agents of the people. That means they are intermediaries. Correct?
Right.
Job of technology is to disintermediate. Okay? So, using net, you can get rid of all the parliamentarians. I'm sure most parliamentarians will learn that. We can give them good pension, no problem. But do we really need, why they exist? They say, okay, we write laws, legislations, correct? So, first of all, they say we represent people's wishes. Do they really do that? Is first. Number two, is it a true democracy? Because it's majority rule. Now, suppose gay movement, right? 50% of the people would say that no, we are in favor, 50% will say against. Member of Parliament cast only one vote. He is not representing 50% of the people.
True.
So, it's not.
So, it's not truly representative.
It's not truly representative.
Right.
So, in the process, you know, what right do I have? I cannot do anything about it. I give my power of attorney, irrevocable power of attorney for 5 years. I have no right to recall. Okay. or do anything about my view going. Even if I don't recall, I should be able to do it, right? And I'll come to that in a moment. So, job of a legislator or legislation, what does an act do? When you look at any law, what is the first thing you see? There is usually section 2 which deals with the definitions. What is the meaning of definition? There are meanings assigned to words. Now, today look at Wikipedia. Wikipedia, you have forgotten Encyclopedia Britannica and all those dictionaries and stuff. First thing you do is Wikipedia, with it's all good or bad, whatever you like it or not, but that has become the mainstream tool. Who writes Wikipedia? Over 100,000 people.
Crowds.
Correct?
True.
Now, if you have to write law, first thing you have to do is to define murder. I'm just giving example or definition clause.
Right.
Okay. What is money for bitcoins, right? Or what is currency? You have to define that. So, if you can write Wikipedia, same way you can write laws. All that next thing you have to do, once you define a particular word, then there is operational part and there are consequences of not complying. So, there is punishment provided.
Right.
So, people themselves can write laws in the future without involving the members of parliament.
So, that's truly participative, no?
What would call a netocracy from democracy.
Okay.
Okay. So, that is a true, and assume for a moment you want parliamentarian to represent you, because like you are a CEO of yourself, right?
Okay.
If you are a CEO, what do? You say these are 1, 2 or 3 things that I am not going to assign to anybody. I am going to keep my right. Another 100 things you keep. So, daily legislation, small thing, I am not interested, I don't have time. Okay, you keep on doing. Ultimately, he is public servant, no? Today they behave, some of them, not all.
Lovely. I love the way the tables are turned now.
Tables are turned. Okay. So, even bureaucrats, I remember during British time when I was not born, but I have seen the letters, they say you are obedient servant. Most of the bureaucrats used to write that language.
Right.
Okay, that word has disappeared unfortunately in the letter they write today.
Right.
But the point I am making is that, okay, I may allow the representative system to prevail because of the want of time or whatever other reason I may want to. But on the issues where I want to vote, I will be able to electronically take my vote back and say on this issue I am voting. That is how it should be. Then it is a true democracy.
Yes.
Because if he is not willing to vote according to my wish, then to that extent his votes will be taken away. And I will do in 5 years time, the cell phone will become a polling station, or today it can become actually. You can have a phone through which you can vote, you can check identity, retina check, stress level and fingerprint. You can find identity, whether somebody is putting gun and you are in secured environment, everything you can find on the phone. So, phone is easiest way to become a polling station.
Right.
So, you can make a polling station out of phone, you can vote electronically on the issues that you want to vote, and rest of the thing you carry on.
I delegate to you, right.
So, this is what is my concept of democracy, and this is my concept, it is also called now liquid democracy.
People who are going to implement this, people who are going to actually say, oh, I have a vision and I agree, will have to give up something when this comes in. How possible is that?
I personally am more positive about people, even those who are in power, than negative. You see, I have more confidence in even today's members of parliament. They will be more than willing to look at new ideas. How can we have a true democracy in the country? There are people who may or may not, but today I do not like to generalize anything. I'm pretty positive. Nobody will believe at this point in time that you can do away with parliament.
At a personal level, Nishith, what keeps you inspired? What makes you get up in the morning and say, another lovely day?
I want to change the world. I want to do something different. I want to do something new every morning. You wake up and try and challenge the conventional wisdom if it has passed its time, and retain where we need to, and even bring it back. That itself is also reinventing yourself. So, as I mentioned, whether it is legal profession, reinventing yourself, bringing back the values with which the legal profession was born is something that I really want to, I feel like. If it is technology, I want to learn what new technologies are coming up. I'm not great in technology, I'm a little But I enjoy playing with those toys and see what new things will come. Social development, how can we change something in the society? How can you, look at, as I was talking about netocracy and how can we change this whole system of 1100-year-old representative parliament? We need to reinvent. Parliament itself needs to reinvent.
Okay.
And
what happens, when you meet disappointment, disillusionment, something sad, and so do you get down? How do you bring yourself up after that?
I think one philosophy I have adopted in my life is the purpose of all that we are doing is happiness. And happiness is never constant. It is up and down for all of us. Only time we are constantly happy is when you are dead, your cardiogram will come straight.
Well, a happy ending.
Okay. So I believe, and for my firm, my thesis is that our limit to growth is where our happiness ends. I think when you find happiness in everything that you are doing, there will be ups and downs, and without that life is not exciting. So I look at all my decisions by and large I would take based on happiness. I enjoy being a small firm. The nomenclature that we have now taken is we want to be a nano firm. Stay small, think big and do big, and that is the way to go, because nanotechnology is going to come. We do not believe in head count, we believe in brain count.
Lovely. Okay.
So I want to challenge the whole model that everybody wants to become big. I go and tell I want to be small, but like an atom, not like an elephant.
Okay.
There are two ways to become powerful. And so I think those kind of things I like to challenge.
True.
And be constructively contrarian. So that's something which is
that's constructively contrarian. Yeah. Wonderful. So, and they also say that all good things come in small packages. So that's also beautiful.
Yeah.
What happens? You have a vision.
Yeah.
You have something that you dream big. How do you inspire other people to believe in that dream? That's the toughest, isn't it?
Well, I think the way in which I try to inspire is to make my own commitment first to whatever I do not care what others think except to get their input and look at them, but I would do what I like to do, and then based on that I would make commitment, financial, time, whatever is needed. Once I made it, I would just want to do it. And then people, when they see results, generally they get inspired, and suddenly they start asking me, how did you build the firm, how did you do this, that, etc. I was as ordinary as anybody else, and today also I am ordinary. And as you move up, I think most important thing to learn is humility.
Right.
I can never be arrogant to say I don't want to learn. Every morning I have to attend classroom to learn from my junior members. At 9 to 10 we have a classroom in our firm. So I am always mentored by those whom I consider mentees, but actually they shape me every morning. That's why it keeps me young, except my grey hair comes so that I can charge more fees. And later when don't get me wrong.
Lovely. Nishith, what is success for you?
Success has a number of issues, but one way in which I look at, I would always say that if you are successful, that means broadly you have achieved your vision and you have accomplished something which gives some inspirations to others, number one, and the way in which you did it, that is even more inspiring to others, so that they can learn and shape their own thing. And second principle, I say, you are never successful unless you make at least 2 other people successful in your life. And that's the measurement of success. By myself being successful, whether you make money, whether you are this, that, etc., is useless if I cannot at least make 2 or 3 or 4 people.
Wonderful.
So our performance evaluation in our firm also is, if you do good this year and do better, you don't get more marks unless you show that have you helped 2 other people become successful upward.
And that answers all the questions about OBE and leadership and building and how they beautifully tie. Nishith, thank you so much for helping us understand that the self is not limited to us, but there is a larger self and we are all a part of it. But thank you so much for coming and sharing your life and your journey with us.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm glad you.
Thank you.